I'm Tegan Brown.
And I'm Bradley Hoppenstein. We start off today with our market update per usual. Now, big story this week was the jobs report. The markets were up on the Fed raising rates, but dipped a bit to end the week. Let's take a look at the Dow to start us off. Meanwhile, consumers in retail cutting their spending in March for the second straight month. After a 3% surge in January, retail sales are down 1% from February to March. The U.S. adding a stunning 517,000 jobs in January. The expected number, only 185,000. Job market still red hot, even with some of those layoffs Tegan mentioned. Amazon may be a bit late to the party, but it quietly announced Thursday it's offering its AWS customers the chance to leverage some of the most popular new AI models. And United, on the other hand, they're looking to bring families together. They're now going to let children under 12 sit next to an adult they're traveling with at no extra cost, which is great news for families.
Oh, yeah.
This, in part, a response to the Biden administration. On the flip side, Alphabet shares slumping about 3% on Monday, based on reports that Samsung may be ditching Google as the default search engine on its phones in favor of Bing. The big name FedEx, the shipping giant, is cutting more than 10% of its officers and directors. It's cutting those corporate jobs to lower costs, with demand slowing down in the shipping industry after a pandemic surge. Amazon is the #1 company to work for a third year in a row. That's according to LinkedIn, who rated companies on a variety of factors, including employee skill growth and the frequency and speed that they're promoted at. A green future is moving closer. The Energy Administration says electricity from renewables passed coal for the first time in 2022. Wind and solar driving the increase, contributing 14% of domestic energy last year. Popular home goods giant Bed Bath & Beyond, more like Bed Bath & Bankrupt, because they're filing for bankruptcy as of this morning. Fed Reserve Chairman Powell, he's telling a cautionary tale. He says, yes, inflation's starting to ease, but it's going to be a long process. Now, another tech giant, TikTok, is rolling out a new policy for users under 18 years old. It wants to limit teen screen time on the app by setting a 1-hour time limit by default. The government is expected to run through its stockpile at some point this summer. Capitol Hill has been pressuring vaccine makers to keep their shots affordable once the Fed steps back. So they boosted prices 10% in light of inflation, but that actually paid off. Net sales jumping about 4%, shares jumping also 4% on Friday based on their solid earnings. And the company boosting its outlook on 2023, Tegan, based on these earnings that are up. They're boosting their outlook on the year. Bit of a different stock. Let's go to the retail business. Let's talk Lululemon Athletica. They started the week around $2.95 a share, but ending close to $3.15. Now, here's the interesting thing. Their 52-week high is $4.10 a share, so many investors think Lululemon is starting a comeback. The struggling video game retailer posted its first profitable quarter in 2 years. So let's take a look at Netflix's stock now. Plunging earlier this week, but making a slight recovery down the stretch. Shares falling as much as 7% after hours on Tuesday, now down about 2% on the week. Peter, the question we're all asking this week is, how could a bank so successful collapse so fast? Not only that, but could this spark a broader banking meltdown? You look at the consumer price index. I mean, prices are still up. Consumers are still spending less. Inflation's still up. Wages aren't keeping up with inflation. So people looking for a cheap meal, McDonald's up 10%. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Chile now joining us at the desk. Chile, it's not cheap. Only hockey and basketball. Do you think this is a hard sell? It sounds like a hard sell.
Very much so.
Sean, I want to go back to Apple and this new savings account because it's kind of rocked the banking sector a little bit. Do you think the banks should be worried about big tech first of all, big tech taking over a ton of industries, but big tech specifically getting into the personal finance game? But it's interesting. We're seeing a lot of layoffs around the tech industry. But then we have the big jobs report this week. So what does that say about the tech industry in its state right now? Jake, it's the 8th time the Fed's raised interest rates this year. Is there an end to this coming soon? Yeah, I think the biggest two issues facing EVs right now are, one, price. They're all relatively still pretty expensive. And two, we talk about the building out a charging network and building out that EV infrastructure. That's a serious issue. A gas car, I mean, not to mention how it takes maybe 2 minutes to fill up your car versus at least 20 at a charging station. But all these electric vehicles are using different chargers, and that's not going to cut it. Chile, just rounding us out here, covering all sides of this. People are already starting to talk about this sort of streaming fatigue. I know I'm seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone's got their own service now. So what does that mean for streamers and the broadcasters? Part of the motivation to go back will be new yoga and cycling rooms, meditation spaces, and more. That sounds like
interesting. That sounds like pretty great work to me.
Pretty good deal to me. Some yoga, some indoor cycling.
There's also a new food hall, I believe.